with Ken, and he's got a cute little Austin here. Tell us a little bit about this car.
Well, this is a 1932 Austin 10-4, and it's the Sunshine Edition, which was a special edition that they built. It had a sunroof for the one sunny day Britain got in a year. It also had a flip-out windscreen, so you got some additional ventilation. And this was a replacement, not really a replacement, but an augment to the Austin line, which mostly featured much larger cars, but this was supposed to be a smaller, economical car for a family of four. We acquired it about 2 weeks ago. It came from Alberta, Canada. It was imported into Canada in 1986 from England, and it's only done about 30 miles in the last 35 years. So it's gotten a lot of use in the last 2 weeks, more than it has in the last 30 years.
Hey, we're here with John. He's got a really neat Model T with a neat story. Tell us about that.
My Model T, we live in Chelsea, Michigan, which is 14 miles west of Ann Arbor. And this vehicle was delivered to our dealership in 1914. The dealership was founded April 15th, 1912, the day the Titanic sank. In 1918, they took this 14T, turned it into their delivery vehicle, and they used it up until 1927 when they sold it to a farmer. The farmer used it until 1932 when he went and bought a brand new 1932 Model A pickup. So it's really never been out of our town of Chelsea since it was delivered, and it's all original.
He's got this super cool camper trailer from 1927. Tell us a little bit about this.
The trailer is a 1927 auto camp trailer. It was manufactured in Saginaw, Michigan. The company was founded in 1916, and they produced essentially a fold-out tent trailer until probably the late 30s.
Okay.
Some of the features of the trailer, it's basically a 7-foot by 4-foot box. Has 2 fold-out spring steel beds with wool felted mattresses on top. A unique feature about the auto camp trailer is under the floor of the trailer, there's a couple drawers. On the right side is a dry groceries drawer where you can store your gasoline stove and other groceries. And on the left side here is a galvanized ice box. So you have kind of built-in refrigeration.
Okay, so now tell us about, you guys have like a club. Tell us about your club.
Okay, I'm a member of the Tin Can Tourists. The organization was originally founded 100 years ago this year. In 1919, in DeSoto Park in Tampa, Florida, a group of 24 tourists got together and decided to form the Tin Can Tourists, and the whole idea was to unite fraternally all auto campers. And the club, within a couple years, growing from 24 people, had 17,000 members by 1921. By 1922, had 30,000 members. So it was a pretty big deal.
Wow.
Their convention in 1926 had 500 rigs from all 48 states, Canada, Alaska, and New Zealand. So the club went on through the 20th century, and then by the late 50s and into the 60s, it just kind of died out. And about 20 years ago, a retired school teacher from Dearborn, Michigan, Forrest Bone, and his wife Jerry restarted the Tin Can Tourist, and it's an all-make, all-year club of vintage trailer owners, but anyone can play. So there's modern rigs. I show up, and I usually have the oldest trailer there, but and we still camp in it.
Okay, and you travel all over doing this.
The club has a major convention every spring in Camp Dearborn in Milford, Michigan. But this rig has been down to Hilton Head, out to Kearney, Nebraska for the Lincoln Highway Convention. And just last February, we were down in Tampa, Florida for the centennial anniversary of the Tin Can Tourist. We did a historical display in DeSoto Park, the very soil where the organization was formed 100 years ago.
Wow, that's fantastic. I'm here with Dallas Landers. He's one of my good friends, and he's got this super cool truck that he just got finished. Been working on it really hard for a couple of years. Tell us a little bit about your truck.
Well, this truck is a 1923 Model TT, which is the ton truck. It's a big truck. It has a Martin Perry wood cab. It was built in Indianapolis. The cab's been completely rebuilt. I took an original, disassembled it, and everything is just like it was from the factory. All the mortise and tenon joints, the screws, the bolts. It's as close to original as you can get. The bed on it is American Wagon Company is who made the bed. They started making wagons, and when the motor truck came along, they just naturally progressed into building bodies for trucks. So it's called the 8-in-1 convertible truck body. It makes into 8 different configurations. It's kind of unique. You bought one bed and it cost almost as much as the truck to start with, and then you had 8 different beds, so it was cheaper in the long run. But it's a long project. Like Jeff said, it took me a couple years. All the wood in the bed's been replaced except for just a couple pieces. A lot of nuts and bolts that had to be located or made because they don't make that hardware anymore. It's been a fun project, and we come up here to Old Car Fest with Jeff for the last few years, and we've had a lot of fun.
Okay, in a Model T, they're a little bit different to drive, so Dallas is going to give us a little bit of a driving lesson.
Well, the first thing you have to do when you're driving a Model T is get it started, and I already have that done. That's top secret. I can't tell you that. But you have your throttle. You don't have a gas pedal. This is your throttle. Your spark advance is over here. And as you can see, you have 3 pedals on the floor. You have a brake pedal on the right, a reverse pedal in the middle, and this is your high and low in combination with this lever on the side. So when you get going in low, you push on this pedal all the way to the floor. When you get going, you pull the lever all the way forward, you let off the low pedal, and you're in high. And somewhere in between is a sweet spot where you're in neutral. So we're going to take off here, and I'll advance the timing and the throttle as I get going. I'm going to take off the low gear, and I have an auxiliary transmission, which is even more complicated, but we'll get into that in a minute. Model T has 2 speeds. You have low gear and high, or slow and slower as we call it. You're in low gear, you reach down, you throw the lever forward, you run your throttle up a little, your timing, you back the throttle off, let out of the pedal, and you're in high gear. The faster you go with the throttle, the more you pull down on the timing. Sorry about the rough ride, it is a 1-ton truck. You should do this out on the road, I guess. Give it the throttle in high gear. I have it in low range in the auxiliary transmission, so you can slow it right down to an idle in high gear. That's in T high. So you're just puffing along. If you want to go faster, you shift the auxiliary transmission into mid-range, which is straight Model T. I have it in low range right now. Then you have a 3rd gear, which is high. When you get on the road in modern traffic, you definitely want it in high. Go out on the road, I'm in low range, run the throttle up a little, push your clutch in, pull it back into mid-range, and you're high mid-range, or straight drive. You advance your throttle as fast as you get going. Get down here on the asphalt, it'll be a little bit easier to film this whole thing. run about 40 miles an hour from the factory, and we do 18 without the auxiliary transmission and the high-speed gear system. I'll show you how reverse works here. Pull up. You can pull your transmission back into neutral. Now you can take your feet off both pedals and it'll sit here. The center lever, or the center pedal, push on that, and you back up. And as you can see, my big feet will get caught between them pedals, so you want to be real careful or you're liable to back into something. Then you just take off the low gear again, push on the pedal.
Hey, I'm here with the Hoffmans, and they got a beautiful old Dodge. Tell us about your old Dodge Brothers.
Okay, it's a 1918 Touring that we got 19 years ago, and it was restored by the previous owner, but we've had some other paint job done on it and things like that, but it runs great. We've been on several tours, and I guess we've done over 100 miles in one day on different tours, and so far so good as far as it running, but
yeah, and they run this car a lot. He's also part of the Dodge Brothers Club, and tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, I happen to be membership director, so membership at dodgebrothersclub.org will give me an email, or you can go on the website dodgebrothersclub.org, and there's a membership form on there. You can pay your dues right then.
Yeah, and every time I'm here, he always comes over and makes me pay my dues, because I'm usually running a little behind. I tend to forget about it, but I enjoy being a part of the club. Tell us a little bit about the Dodge Brothers.
Okay, Dodge Brothers actually were born in Niles, Michigan on the west side. They came to the Detroit area in about 1901 and set up a machine. They actually are part of a bicycle company. And then they came up with a bearing for the bicycles. They got them some money. They opened a machine shop, and in 1903, Henry Ford was, after he went down the second time, bankrupt, he came to them for running gear and engines, and to build his first Model T or A, I remember. But anyway, then they lasted with him for about 10 years. Made a big factory to supply him, and in 1913 they told him, we're done because we're doing all our work for you, and we're going to start building our own car. And they produced the first one in 1914 late, and by 1920 they were second in sales in the country, but that was the same year both brothers died, one of influenza and the other one probably of grief, because they were so close together.
Yeah, and it's really a shame, because they were so far ahead of everybody else at the time. They had a lot of neat innovations. I can only imagine if the Dodge Brothers would have lived another 10 or 20 years, you know, I think they would have been way bigger than what Dodge is.
Yeah.
Brothers and sisters, hear me yell and listen to me while I'm telling you. Won't mean a thing without that swing. Come on, you all forget your sorrows. Please don't wait until tomorrow. You won't mean a thing without that swing. It makes no difference if it's sweet or hot. Just give that rhythm everything you got. Brothers and sisters, hear me yell and listen to me while I'm telling you. Won't mean a thing without that swing. You never mean a without a swing.
Jerry and Mike, they went on this endurance tour from Lansing to Dearborn?
Lansing to
Dearborn.
Dearborn.
You go both ways, right?
Yes, Dearborn to Lansing, which we put 110 miles on, and back from Lansing to Dearborn, and we put 105 miles coming back.
Okay, and that was this week?
That was this week, 2 days, Thursday and Friday, and it's all back road driving, and we zigzag around because the distance from here to Lansing is not 110 miles, it's maybe 85 or so, but we want to do 100 miles.
Now, how did this all start? This was you was telling us
it started in the day in around 1900, 1901, where someone sort of said you wouldn't be able to drive one of these cars to Detroit from Lansing. So someone who had an Oldsmobile decided, well, I'm going to go do it and show them. So he drove. And years ago, maybe in about the late 70s?
The early 80s.
Early 80s, the Ford Museum and a few other people decided, well, let's start this run again. It'll be something for the early cars. And then we'll drive into the Ford Old Car Festival on Saturday as doing this 100-mile run. So they decided to commemorate from Lansing, just drive from there to Dearborn.
And it's mostly what, cars in the teens?
It was 1 and 2 cylinder only.
Well, originally it was curb dash Oldsmobile.
Yeah.
And then they opened up, and bicycles, high wheel bicycles were welcome to participate. Then they opened it up to 1 and 2 cylinder cars and the bicycles. And this was the 37th run, 37th year that the tour has been run. We started in 87 with a 1-cylinder car, and there were maybe only 15, 20 cars that participated initially.
Okay.
And
We made 35 miles and broke down.
Yeah.
Next year came back and then we made it.
Okay.
Yeah, we were driving a 1903 Mar auto car, which I had purchased here from the Henry Ford Museum at auction, and participated with that. The first year we broke down. The next years we always finished. And that was always sort of the fun. We would go from Lansing to Dearborn, starting in Lansing about 6 o'clock on Saturday morning, the day of the Old Car Festival, and drive here, have lunch. It was sort of a hurried tour because they wanted us to pull in here in the middle of the festivities. So the banner down there that says the finish line, we would drive underneath, and then we would all be interviewed as to how our day went. How eventful was it?
Did you break down?
Did you
How
broke
many
down?
flat
Have
tires?
flat tires, and Well, then after a couple of years of that, Randy Mason, who was curator of the collections here, said, "You people are getting boring.
There wasn't enough
there's
happening.
no breakdowns. Nobody has any
chickens."
exciting stories, to tell." And we were sort of getting bored with it too, so we said, well, geez, our cars are in Lansing and our trailers, and now we have to get them from the Ford Museum, or from Lansing back to the Ford Museum, which was no fun. Had to take a bus out or have somebody drive your car in. We said, why don't we just drive from Dearborn to Lansing on one day and back on the next? And then we stopped coming into the middle of the Old Car Festival because we were losing half the day of being here, the fun, by driving.
So now tell us about your car here that you took on the tour this year.
Okay, it's a 1906 Buick, 2-cylinder car. The first 2-cylinder car made by Buick. Buick only ever built 2-cylinder cars early on. Their first offering was in 1904, 1905. From 1906 to 1910, it went virtually unchanged as far as drivetrain goes. Transmission, engine, everything's the same. But each year it got 2 inches longer, and the tires got bigger. And so it's got to be a formidable size car, but it was a very, very reliable car. And that's why it was the longest run of a first offered car of any car manufacturer.
Without change mechanically.
Without change mechanically. And so it went on basically for 5 years that they were making it. And it's a dirty car. It throws oil and grease everywhere, but that's cheap insurance rather than burning up the cylinders or bearings or anything like that.
It's a pig, but it's a pretty pig.
Yeah, it's a pig. It's a pretty pig. And the car, when I bought it, was nothing but a pile of parts.
Okay.
So it was totally restored. I've owned the car for 43 years, but it's only been on the road for
See this frog?
Yeah.
You gotta send him home and get him on a lily pad. Can you do that?
No.
Yes, you don't. You go with no confidence. You gotta come in. You gotta be strong.
Positive.
You know these kids today. I swear, no respect. Come on now, clean that frog. Oh my goodness, you're kind of a natural, but you gotta get that on the lily pad. You gotta try harder now. That frog just wants to go home. He's just having a Let's send him home.
Okay.
Oh my goodness, we're gonna count that. You know why? Because he went off. Even though I think you done killed him, I think that's gonna count. So you got 2 more frogs.
Okay.
2 more chicks. Stop laughing. If you're gonna laugh at me, I swear we gonna have a problem. All right, now you're gonna take this frog. Serious now. Concentrate. Get some poison in there. Come on now.
Okay.
Oh my goodness, you're close now. You got one nice frog. Look at this frog. He's just a
You didn't stop. Look at your shoes shined up
that
over
frog
there.
He might stop by later.
Oh, my
There's
God.
no eyes. So.
You judge my frog.
Well, you got enough time
Judge my
to
frog.
try playing a little.
Send that frog home.
Okay.
Oh, come on up here, son. Let's see
Lead
what
the
you
frog.
got to do.
Lead the frog.
Get this one over here. Imagine a line.
You've done your best. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Bloopers.